then these children would be also really maybe educated in there, and that is one thing which would also really enable many of them change from being good also really citizens to also bad citizens, also really to good citizens in there, and that would also really be very much good at the end of the day in there. And that's something also which at the end of the day is worth being appreciated, because now that he has reformed, what next for the children that have been under his guardianship? These are the junior criminals. How can we be able to solely see that they transform with their boss? Because now that their boss has reformed, these children already have come out to say that they are now abandoning this behavior of theft. Now, what's the fate of these children like is really what remains unknown, and what also remains also really a question to answer in there. That's one thing also really which we shall be asking ourselves and this morning also really, and you as the viewer can still share your thoughts and share opinions on how best these children can be supported. And that's really something at the end of the day which is worth being appreciated. And that's something also at the end of the day we are going to be also leaving a discussion with. Now, Kenya's Martha Karua has finally been cleared to represent Dr. Kizza Besigye at the military court in Kampala. And remember, Dr. Kizza Besigye was arrested also together with his counterpart, that is Obed, also from Kenya, where they had gone for a book launch of Martha Karua. Now, Uganda Law Council has also declined its earlier decision and granted Kenyan senior advocate, that is Martha Karua, a temporary practicing license also to enable her represent Ugandan veteran opposition politician, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and his aide, Haj Obed Lutali, in the military court. Now, Dr. Besigye and Haj Obed Lutali, remember, we were arrested some time back, and we are as well expected to return to the General Court Martial, and that is also today, after spending weeks also in prison, where they were remanded following their alleged abduction from Nairobi, Kenya, in November last year. And this is something also many people have been expressing dismay over, and this is something also which we feel you also as well need to know about. Now, the council on Monday, which was yesterday, declined this earlier decision in which it had also claimed that the former Kenyan Justice Minister's application lacked proper documentation and was therefore politically motivated. And now, sources privy to the matter say the council U-turn followed both internal and external pressures as lawyers, human rights activists, and politicians who debated Uganda's justice system. And the council, chaired by Court of Appeal Justice Irene Mulyagonja, had also earlier urged that there was nothing new that Ms. Karua, also an opposition steward in Kenya, would add to Uganda's four-time presidential contenders legal team, and therefore that was the reason she was excluded from also practicing in Uganda. But now the U-turn also is going to be adding a strength that is the opposition's also really aid, and that's something which we did see happening. And Dr. Besigye and Haj Lutali were on November 16, 2004, allegedly abducted also from Kenyan capital Nairobi, where they had also traveled to attend Ms. Karua's book launch, and that is something also which we did see happening. And they were later repatriated back to Uganda. And many people are asking questions: how can a crime be committed in another jurisdiction and then be charged, or then be assessed in another country? Because if at all they were got with military attire, if at all they were got also with pistol, if at all they were got with any ammunition. But still, this wasn't within Uganda. This is what many lawyers have been asking, and many also lawyers have been questioning this. Maybe also that's something which many people have not been happy about, but really that's something that happened, and quite regrettable as well in there. Now they face charges related to security and being in unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition, and that is something which we did see happening. And definitely you can be in position also to share your thoughts and opinions about this same matter in there, and that's really something which at the end of the day many people have been talking about. And we hope at the end of the day this matter will be finally resolved, and we shall be seeing Dr. Kizza Besigye, if at all is free, be freed, and if at all maybe he has cases to answer, and then let the cases be answered, other than also keeping him in detention under military captivity in there. That is something which many people have not been happy about. Now, leaving that discussion aside, many of the times we have been talking about the state of our roads. If you really look at some of the roads, they have been dilapidated, and this also has been raising questions about what the leaders have been doing, and that is something which at the end of the day has not been very much well. And now the minister in charge of the roads, that's the Minister for Works and Transport, General Edward Katumba Wamala, has said that the ministry is facing financial challenges, that is to get contractors to maintain major roads across the entire country. And now for those who have been singing that the government should come to their rescue, be rest assured that there's no money in terms of sort of taking care of this road. Now, according to the minister, government owes also one of the contractors, Enaku Construction Company, about 50 billion also in accumulated debts after it was contracted to maintain roads across the country. And General Katumba Wamala therefore explained that even if also the contractor had wanted to also work on the roads, they cannot do so because the government has delayed paying for the works, and consequently the government also has opted to use its engineering unit for road maintenance, according to General also Katumba Wamala in there. Now General Katumba Wamala revealed that shilling 480 million is being used for maintenance works of about 1.5 kilometer road distance in purchasing materials, fuel, and other logistics. And that's something which we did see happening. Now, the general did go on to talk about that government has no money, and these remarks were made on Sunday while inspecting the progress of maintenance works of a section of Jinja to Kampala to Jinja Highway Road, that is at Mabiria Forest Inn. Now, the ministry is also the engineering road unit, headed over by engineer Moses Omunyonkol, was deployed to maintain also the road section, and that is really something which many people have been talking about. And if you look at the road that connects Central to Eastern, this Mabiria Highway Road, many of the times this road has been in a bad state, and now the road has also been very much small. Many people have been talking about expansion, and with the call also has been about expanding this road, because this is a road that connects not only Eastern but connects also to Kenya, and this is why it has been a road of so much demand. How can we see this happening? And many people have been talking about this, and they want to see how best government can be in position to also work on this road in there. And now, in order to minimize also disruptions during the maintenance works, alternative roads also for motorists were given also with heavy trucks. They diverted to use Mukono to Chetume, Katosi, Chisoga, Nyenga, Njeru Road, while drivers of light vehicles are using the Njeru, Kayunga, Mukono to Kalagi via Gayaza route to Kampala, as well as Jinja to Kampala respectively. And this is what also has been made as an alternative route. And this is to allow the smooth works of this renovation also of this road. Now, Mr. Stephen Serubala, Member of Parliament for Lugazi Municipality, however, slammed the government for not expanding the highway to 4 lines in order to reduce crashes, and also the wear of road, since the forest has no households that will need compensation. And that's something also many people also have been talking about, expanding this road, because the road has not been also wide enough for many motorists, and this is why we are seeing crashes in terms of also where when vehicles want to take over. We have had challenges where vehicles coming from either directions have always crashed in there. Now, Mr. Serubal advised the government to prioritize Jinja to Kampala Highway by ensuring it meets international standards, by also being the main entry point that's from the East Africa that is that generates substantial revenues to the country. And Mr. Mubiruchu Wanuka, the Buikwe district councillor, told the minister that the 5 also the border riders in Majembe, so this division had lost their lives as a result of the numerous potholes. And now Mr. Alan Sempebwa, the UNRA spokesperson, attributed some of the crashes to lack of road signs by also scrap dealers, and this is only as we have seen people vandalizing the road also signs for scrap, and now that also puts the drivers and other motorists at risk. As I said, the numerous plans underway to fix also some of these road signs that have been destroyed. And this goes back to the rest of the people. Why should we destroy all these things? At the end of the day, it is also us, ourselves, who are going to be risking our livelihoods in there. And that means we should avoid tendencies of vandalizing these road signs, and if we want to live safe. And that is really something which also we need to also encourage our people solely for talking about in there. That's something solely at the end of the day, if we want to have the rates of accidents in this country reduced, we therefore have to make sure that we abide by some of these social calls, and that's really something which at the end of the day would be very much good in there. That's really something at the end of the day we are going to be posing with the discussions. And now another story that we are seeing on the morning papers: a Kampala businessman has lost shilling 30 million in broad daylight also robbery in there. And many times we talk about issues of robbery, and how can we also minimize the cases of robbery in this country. Now, police have opened an investigation after Kampala businessman lost shilling 30.7 million in broad day robbery in Uganda's capital. And now Kampala businessman Francis Baraka filed a case of aggravated robbery on January 4th at also 10 a.m. after losing shillings also already 30 million, that means also already losing the money, ATM cards and other vital identification to a group of masked men riding on the borders in there. Now, according to the victims, the thugs robbed him also already at 50th Street Junction, Mutabazi Lane, also in Kampala Central Division, prompting him also to report the incident to Jinja Road Police Station. And now Baraka had withdrawn also the money from a KCB bank branch on 6th also Street before he was confronted by the suspected robbery armed with panga. And that's something which also we are encouraging people to use e-money. It's time for us to embrace electronic transactions. And if we not also want to see many of these cases, because we may be talking about Baraka, then not knowing in the next time it's going to be you. So let's embrace digital transactions. Today we have issues of people where people can pay through mobile transactions. All you need to do is also have a connection also through some of these telecommunication companies, and that's why if we are to avoid issues of moving with hard cash, then that's when we shall be seeing also a reduction in cases of robbery, because today robbery remains a great concern. A few years ago, we were able to see some businessmen in a rural city robbed of money worth millions and millions, and that's really something which also really paid a bad image in there. Now, last year, a gang of more than 10 people riding on motorcycles attacked Jiwan Lal, an accountant also working at the Rigil Agropec Limited in Kololo, and in the CCTV incident captured on cameras along Moanda Road, Jiwan, who was riding a motorcycle, was beaten and robbed of shillings 5 million and 2 mobile phones, and that is really something very, very much sad in Kampala. And this not only happened in Kampala, we are seeing this happening across the entire country, where issues of robbery still continue to exist. And that means we should also be interested in wanting to reduce some of these cases. Vigilance is always key, and not moving with huge amounts of money is what we must also embrace. Let's embrace digital transactions. Let's embrace transacting also really through mobile money. Maybe that would also really help reduce the cases of also robbery that we are talking about this morning. And really that's something sad. And we hope at the end of the day, we shall be seeing that also reducing. Now, Sheikh Chiruta takes over Masaka Regional Card is another story we're seeing on the monitor this morning, where Sheikh Badru Wasaja Chiruta has now taken over, replacing as Masaka Regional Card, where he will be replacing Sheikh Sulait Sentongo, who served in the same position for 2 years. Now, this comes after Sheikh Sentongo tendered his resignation letter to Masaka Regional Muslim Council in July, citing health-related issues, which the council accepted and gave him up to December 2024 to hand over the office. Now, this is something which we are seeing, where Sheikh Chiruta was installed last Friday as at Masaka main mosque during a function attended by Muslim leaders, the government dignitaries, including that's the State Minister for Microfinance, Haji Mr. Haruna Kasolo in there. And in his remarks, Sheikh Sentongo also reflected on his achievement during his tenure, including improving the welfare of orphans and widows also really, and this was also really something that we did see happening. And this goes back to the rest of the people. How are you serving, and what are you doing exactly in your leadership to make sure that you support whoever is in need of your help? Now, Sheikh Sentongo took over office on October 22, 2022, following the death of former Greater Masaka Regional Kadi, that is Sheikh Shuaib Nduga, who also deputized for some time, and that is really something which is happening. Now, Mr. Amit Senoga Nduga, the Masaka Regional Muslim Council chairperson, praised Sheikh Sentongo's leadership, saying you have made history by serving and then also leaving office when you're still capable of leading, and that's really something which we did see happening in there. But this also goes back to the rest of the people in those various positions who also have been in there for long. What message, maybe what example can you pick from Sheikh Sentongo's also character? It means you need also not to serve for a long period of time, because if you serve for long, sometimes also people get tired of you, and that means you must also leave when people are still interested in you, just like how people are now also praising the Sheikh who is leaving also the office of the office of the district card, that is for Masaka in there. That means you should also really be able to also learn from that. With that, we are going to be pausing for a short commercial break. When we get back, the discussions will be able to follow, where I will be letting you know of more stories, and later on, I will be summarizing with what's happening in the world of sports. For now, we take a short commercial break. When we get back, the discussions will be able to follow.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Look out for StarTimes Solar to unwrap your lighting and entertainment experience this Christmas. At only 700 shillings daily charge, get yourself a StarTimes S50 that comes with lighting, phone charging, strong lithium battery, radio with a flash port and a Bluetooth speaker. For more entertainment needs, get yourself a StarTimes S130 that comes with an extra 32-inch TV screen and 2 years free StarTimes subscription. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are about to continue with discussions, and this is where we are still going to be looking at more stories. And later on, I will be letting you know what's happening in the international scene. As always, summarizing the day will be with the world, with what's happening in the world of sports. But before that, let's still look at more stories and what continues to make round in there. Now, self-proclaimed pastor has been arrested over assault in Lira. Is another story that we are seeing this morning on the Nile Post, where police in Lira City have arrested a 28-year-old self-proclaimed pastor and a manager to a local artist over assault and malicious damage of a vehicle. And this is something which we are seeing still happening within the entertainment industry, just days after what we did see happening during the Nkuka in Kampala, where artists in the names of Palazzo and Alien Skin also did clash in there. But really, we are still seeing more cases of vandalism and malicious damage to property also still happening. And this time around, it's happening in the northern part of this country, where Isaac Awio, popularly known as Awio Scabila, a self-proclaimed pastor, and the resident that is also really of Obutoluelo B cell in the city, also really West Division, was apprehended alongside with his bouncer Eric Odieni, aged 28-year-old, after a viral video showing the duo waylaying the suspect also along Obote Avenue in the city and destroying support. Now, police said preliminary findings indicate that suspects Awio and also the 6 hired bouncers attacked a local artist in the names of Walter Ogwang, a stage name Lil Squire, on January 3rd of this year. And this is really still where we're still seeing issues of artists attacking each other. But what lessons can the rest of the musicians learn from maybe what happened in Kampala? Because what really happened paints a bad image, first of all, of the entertainment industry that this country is having. And this is really where I feel very much bad, because these are artists of the same also background. We are all Ugandans. Why would we be fighting each other if at all we are looking forward to seeing maybe changes in the entertainment industry? These are questions already we should be asking ourselves, and these are things the artists who are also really playing a good role also in terms of also really uniting, doing, and really if we start seeing them fighting themselves, it then says already a very bad image in there. Now, a video also circulating on social media platforms shows that the group blocking the suspect's way along Obote Avenue, Lira City, before having a physical altercation that ended in vandalizing the artist's vehicle, a Toyota Mark II Grand, registration number that is UAU 045Q, and the North Chiyoga Regional Police spokesperson, Superior Police Jimmy Patrick Okema, said the vehicle's windshield was smashed during also the altercation, followed also by physical assaults. And that's something which we see happening, where the suspect, Awio, a self-proclaimed also Lira's best city pastor, who gained fame last year, shortly also after his disappearance and reappearance in public, and his reappearance also him signing up to manage also the suspect, that's Lil Square, a local musician in northern Uganda. Now, Spindle Police Patrick Okema condemned the attack, and also calling it as an acceptable act of violence. And this is also something which musicians in this country should be learning from, because ever since this year began, we have been talking about issues of attacks, most especially amongst the musicians. And this is something which at the end of the day I feel very much bad on. And if at all we continue with this habit, then we are likely to see more of these artists being arrested. Now, the incident also comes in the wake of recent gang-related altercations by Ugandan musicians attacking a police ban on the movement of musicians with more than 5 entourages. And this is actually as a strategy by the police that now musicians should not be moving with a crew of not more than 5 people. And that's really something that aims to make sure that also the numbers or the incidences of attacks are also reduced in there. That's really something which we hope at the end of the day will be very, very much bad also for us to be continued to witness this. And this is something at the end of the day we shall be seeing also it also playing a great role in there. Now, Major Martha Asimwe rallies ABIM leaders to strengthen service delivery and accountabilities. Another story we're seeing on the Morning Pass, where the head of the RD Secretariat and Anti-Corruption Unit in the Office of the President, Major Martha Simwe, convened a high-level monitoring meeting with ABIM district leaders at the district headquarters, and the meeting focused on fostering teamwork, enhancing service delivery, and ensuring government projects yield meaningful results for the people of the area. And if you look at ABIM, this is actually one of those areas also really where we're seeing these issues also happening, and that's really something which we hope also at the end of the day is also really worth being appreciated. Now, acknowledge the challenges, including also gaps in service delivery and accountability, also called for collective efforts to readdress them, and these are issues that we cannot see. And the meeting also underscored the critical role of the RD Secretariat in monitoring service delivery and evaluating government programs and taking corruption, and these are the issues also which we feel are very much key for us to sort of be talking about. If you talk about issues of service delivery, you as citizens actually play a great role in terms of monitoring and also ensuring that the services reach out to the grassroots. Why am I saying this? Many of the times people think it is government's role to monitor, but you as a stakeholder, you can actually also do this at your own by just visiting the nearest health facility and check if the doctors are there. You are monitoring the service delivery. Check if the drugs are there. You as a citizen still can also be able to also play that role in terms of ensuring that the drugs reach out. And in terms of also corruption, you still have a great role to play in underscoring and also making sure that corruption is brought down in this country. And these are issues also where I feel I also need to also encourage you, the citizen, also to also make sure that you play that role in terms of ensuring that also all this also is done. And definitely you must also make sure that you are part of this activity also in terms of ensuring that also you play a great role in bringing down issues of corruption down this country. And that's only if at all we want to see the country also really move forward in there. And this is something also really which we feel you also really has a role to play on. And that's something we saw at the end of the day we are going to be posing the discussions as aside in there. But as we get move on, we are still looking at more stories also happening. And now, as we are talking about digital updates, many of the times we have been talking about this. Now the third phase of the strategy has been launched, where this is going to be targeting new vehicles that enter the country. And we did see yesterday the government rolling out the third phase of digital updates projects with focus on cars entering Uganda. And now January 6th already, we did see it marking a milestone as government was able to roll out the third phase of implementing the intelligent transport monitoring system, which also many also call as ITMIS project, launching installation of digital updates on the vehicles also really and motorcycles entering Uganda for the first time registration. And that's something also which we did see happening, and we hope at the end of the day this will be working. I remember this now updates also were rolled to see how vehicles that were also being also used for criminal activities can be tracked down. And this is also a strategy that government of Uganda looked also at also to make sure that issues of killings can be brought down. And this also is for security reasons, and I believe it's also going to be addressing issues of vehicles being stolen. Many of the times we have had scenarios where vehicles stolen from Uganda find themselves in DRC, find themselves in Sudan. I hope this time around this is going to be addressing that. And now at the Malawi border point, newly imported cars and motorcycles were also throughout Monday fitted with the digital number solely comprising ITMIS, and that's something which we did see happening. And now Kataike said new vehicles and motorcycle owners will be paying shillings 714,000 for the digital number plates also to be installed by a Russian company, that is MS Joint Stock Company Global Security, contracted by the government to also undertake this for 10 years. Now Uganda has set aside its Malaba and Mutukula border entry points to pilot the issuance of the digital number plates to the newly imported motorcycles and vehicles arriving from Mombasa and Dar es Salaam ports in there. And now vehicles imported into the country before January 6th will also secure their digital number plates from Activate's warehouse bonds in the country, as well as the other Ministry of Works and Transport offices that also have been given the mandate also to ensure also that they install these number plates in there. Now government targets phasing out the old non-digital number plates within 2 years. That's according to Mr. Kataike, and we hope that this also will be working out. And that's really something which we did see happening, where those will all number plates will be required to also acquire the digital number plates. Extending existing number plates also will cost 150,000 for motor vehicles and 50,000 Uganda shillings for motorcycles respectively, and that's still something which we did see happening, and this is something we are still following up on to see how, of course, people will be transiting from the old nappies, which look a bit more nice, to the digital nappies, and this is something also really which we are keenly following up. Now, the digital nappies project intends to track criminals who use vehicles and motorcycles, and the President Museveni also said during the 2021 State of Nation address, and this is something which also really the President was able to talk about as also really a reason as to why we are going to be seeing the launch of these digital nappies. Now, since its launch in 2022, about 11,143 motorcycles have already been fitted with the ITMIS, as well as 2,721 government and private vehicles have now been installed with the digital nappies with the functional monitoring system, and that means this system also will be allowing the vehicle also to indicate it also really in those various locations. You can be able to track where this vehicle has reached, and that's really the beauty of the digital nappies. And we hope at the end of the day, the hackers, or what we call the criminals, will not also really find the solution to this, because many times we see these challenges coming up, but the anecdotes, or what we call solutions, are always got by the hardcore criminals. But we hope this time around these are effective and efficient as well, and we hope at the end of the day people will not be able to take advantage of also really making sure that they move off these devices that track these vehicles, and that's something which we are following up on. Now, Uganda Revenue Authority Eastern Region Acting Manager Jimmy Oluka observed that digitizing also number plates for vehicles will reduce on graft through issuance of fake number plates and extortion by middlemen, and these are issues which we have been able to see. Now, there are over 2.4 million vehicles in Uganda, according to official government data, and we hope all these vehicles will be also really getting these digital numbers to make sure that people do not also really leave out, also really are not left out with also really when their vehicles are stolen. And that's something also at the end of the day we hope also really will be very, very much good for talking about, and that's where we're going to be pausing the discussions. But as always, in the next few minutes we shall be looking at what's happening in the international scene, and looking at what's happening in the international scene. We are still saying stop shooting, my daughter is dead. Woman killed also as West Bank power struggle rages, and this is another story we are seeing also on the BBC. And still looking at more stories, Canada's just introduced cites internal battles as he ends 9-year run, and that's something which we are seeing happen in Canada, and this is also under the growing pressure from his own party. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced that he will be stepping down and end his 9-year stretch as the leader of Canada. In and out, Trudeau said he will also stay on power in office until the Liberal Party also can choose a new leader, and that Parliament also would also be prorogued or suspended until March 24th. And this is something also which we are seeing happening in Canada, and we hope at the end of the day also this also will be also moving possibly well in there. And now still looking at what also continues to make rounds across the borders, we are still seeing a woman saying stop shooting, my daughter is dead. Woman killed as West Bank power struggle rages. And if you look at also what's happening in there now, just before New Year, 21-year-old Shatta al-Shabag was also buying chocolate for her family's children from a shop in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Now, the fearless journalism student who wanted also to shed light on the suffering of Palestinians was with the mother, 2 young nephews, and another relative in there, and that is really something which is happening in there. And then she was shot in the head. And for Shatta's mother, Mutusem, the pain is still raw, and she stops also to take the breath in there. And that is really something which we see happening in the other parts of the country, as the US is still witnessing changes in climate when it comes to issues of the winter, where the weathers are still very, very much cold in there. And now Trump Jr. to visit Greenland. After that says US should also own the territory, and this is another story that we are seeing on the international scene. And now Donald Trump Jr. is planning to visit Greenland for 2 weeks after his father repeated his desire for the US also to take control of the autonomous Danish territory. And now the US President-elect Assange also plans to also record video also footage for a podcast during the one-day private visit, according to the US media report in there. Now, Donald Trump reignited the controversy in December when he said ownership and control of Greenland is absolute necessity for US national security, and he had previously expressed an interest in buying also the Arctic island during his first time also as president. Now Trump was rebuffed by the Greenland also leaders on both occasions, and that's really something which we see happening in there. We hope at the end of the day he will be getting whatever also really is necessary for him, maybe take over the control of that land. But that is also an issue of the Europeans, but we are going to be living at that side as we get to look at solely what's happening in also the world of sports, as we are just counting down some few minutes to wind up with today's edition of the show. And looking at what's happening in the world of sports, today we are going to be having also the teachers and the USA sitting to make sure that they also identify the next schools and the next districts also to host the next also the games to come through in there. And remember, we are looking down to see how, of course, the schools cannot be preparing, because first time is when we have football games, and many times already early preparations is always key. And the stakeholders will be sitting today, which also we shall be also sitting and also attending, where to also see how best next season also the schools will be hosting also the games also for the secondary schools in there. And we hope at the end of the day, we shall be part of the crew in there. And today, we shall be moving, and this will be sitting in a DFA. And tomorrow, we shall be coming back to let you know of the schools that will be identified to host the next edition of the games in there. And still looking at what's happening in the world of sports. Yesterday, the Ghetto Crew, so we are able to advocate for a boxing center that will be enabling them also really to make sure that they also become champions. And if you look at the group that belongs to one of the reformed criminal thugs, that's Ali Tororo, the children were actually advocating for a skilling or fitness center that government can also establish for them, because they say many of them cannot now go back to school. But bringing for them skills such as boxing is really something which also would be able to solely enable them to transform in there. And we are leaving that to the stakeholders to make sure that also they do whatever it takes to make sure that these children leave the criminality, maybe through also really becoming good also sportsmen in there. And that's really something at the end of the day, if well implemented, that will be very, very much good. And this on Tupaka Football Club fans, yesterday also we were at it again, where they launched a 250 million bus campaign project, and this is to purchase a mini bus to support the club. And they also say they will be raising this money to make sure that the club gets a means of transport. And they cite the reasons, already clear reasons, that it has been a difficult moment for them to also travel also from one place to another when it comes to issues of transport, because the club lacks a means of transport. And now they will be joining hands to raise money worth 250 million Ugandan shillings to purchase a second-hand US used bus. And this is something I don't know we are following up on. We want to see how, of course, they will be purchasing that bus from Europe to reach also the Greenlight Stadium, that will be also enabling easy movement of the fans and other players from one place to another in there. And that is really something which we did see them launching yesterday at Le Suba Hotel in Arua City, where they say they will be knocking doors of several other people to see that they raise money. And this is the second attempt we are seeing the club is making towards achieving and also getting a bus for its movement in there. The first failed. The money was used also already for other reasons, but now this time round it is led by the fans. Will it deliver? Is it time that the fans will be achieving this? We are leaving that entirely to the fans, and we are following up to see if at all this will be yielding fruits, because the first one failed. Now that the second one is coming, shall it also yield the fruits is what remains unclear, and what remains already what we shall be following up on in there. And that's still something at the end of the day we are going to be seeing on. And remember, the club currently is sitting on the third place in the 4 big league, with also already a game to go in the first round of the first leg. And they also had the last game against Chiinda Boys, where Alan Chigundu's goal was able to separate the two sides, and that keeps on the Paraka's hopes of survival to the StarTimes Uganda Premier League next season alive. And we are still following up and want to see how, of course, this will be possible also for the team to regain promotion. In the next game, they will be also moving to Kasano Stadium. That is in Midigo, against also Midigo Calvary in there. And this game will be coming through, and in their last also game of the first leg of the season in there. And we shall be keeping you posted, and more details of that will be coming through on the whistle time. But before that, we are still moving on and want to see how, of course, things are happening. And many times already we are still seeing the games becoming competitive, right from the regional leagues up to the StarTimes Uganda Premier League. In Uganda, things are getting also competitive, and we shall be seeing these games returning back tomorrow, as Calvary will be hosting Chigezi Homeboys, and Gaddafi will be returning on action. That is on the 9th of this month against Spider Black Angels. And Black's Power will be taking on Gaddafi, as Boma will be taking on Busoga United. Calvary will be up in action against on the Duparaka Football Club. That will be on the 12th in the last game of for the Caterpillars in there, and that's still something which we are still seeing in the world of a big league. And meanwhile, in the Southern Uganda Premier League, we are still seeing things sort of becoming competitive. Today, we shall be seeing a game that's between Mbali Heroes and Neck Football Club, as Kitara will be hosting on Villa. And yesterday, we had a game that was between Vipers, which also the Maroons lost also in there, and the game ended by a 0-0. And that's how we are still seeing Vipers remaining on top of the log, as Neck sits currently on the second position with 30 points, as Expert Football Club, after losing by 7-1. That's Kitara Football Club are still sitting in the third place with 25 points, as KCA sit on fourth position with 24 points. And that is how the top 4 of the Southern Uganda Premier League is looking like. For those who want more details, that will be coming through on the Wisha Time with Owen Ezaga and Linda Susie in there, and that's really something which we are still keenly following up on. We want to see how, of course, that will be ending in there, and that is really something which we're going to put the discussions against also the Ugandan also league aside with. But as always, let's also now see what's happening in the English Premier League, where we had a game on card last night between Wolves and Nottingham Forest. Wolves was able to beat Nottingham Forest by 3-0 in a surprise move in there. That brings us to the end of the show for today. I have been Farish Majid. I hope you had a wonderful time with us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. I want to really say thank you so much, and I will be bouncing back tomorrow for the same program.